Hello! Welcome to the special edition of Electric Picnic called The Electric Womyn. I'm Igor Goldkind, your co-host. To stand in for Sue, we have a dear friend of mine, a great San Diego poet by the name of Deborah Ramos. Deborah is a San Diego native, and she was really active back in the 60s and the 70s, protesting against the war in Vietnam, and she participated, she took action, she was an activist, she took action in setting railroad tracks on fire, oh my God, to stop a train from transporting weapons to the military bases. Deborah graduated from San Diego State, where she studied art, textile, costume, and history theater. She's worked in print shops, markets, she's always been a craftsperson, someone who's worked with her hands, but also with her mind. She has been an educator for over 20 years, especially working with special needs students, teaching art, English, independent living skills, and she continues to voice her protest today through the passion of her poetry and her art. So I'd like to welcome Deborah. Hello, how are you?
Hello, I'm doing good. Thank you, Igor, for that intro, and welcome everybody to the Electric Womyn. And joining us today is a panel of really strong, powerful women, poets, and artists. And we have Marjorie Pezzoli, Stacy Dyson.
Hello, Marjorie.
And Tish.
No, you got to talk. This is radio. Marjorie, you have to talk. You can't wave. You got to talk.
Well, hello,
this is radio.
It's great to be here.
Stacy Dyson, she's from San Diego as well. And Tish Ince. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes, Ince, yes.
Okay.
That's right. Hello, everyone. Hi.
And we'll be hearing more about them as the hour goes on. And we're going to share their pain, their struggles, their poetry, their achievements, and what affects them and impacts them as women today.
Well, Deborah, I just wanted to, I know you're a great hostess because you host the monthly Cypress Grove poetry reading in Balboa Park. How many years have you been doing that?
I started hosting the readings at the Poetry Bench in Balboa Park, I think back in, I don't know, it's been a few years, 7 years, 8 years, something like that.
Well, it's definitely been a fixture in San Diego. It's one of the few consistent poetry venues that I knew of, because when I moved back here, I looked for every poetry venue there was where they were doing readings, and the only two places I could find were Rebecca's, remember them, and remember that place that's closed now, and yours, the Poetry Bench. So I met you. I never met you, really. I just showed up at your gigs, at your things, and sat around outside, and when it was my turn, I read a poem, and then I read another one, and somebody told me to shut up. That only got one at a time. And but people tell me to shut up a lot, by the way. Anyway, but Deborah, over the years, I've got to know you from afar and admire you from afar, because your words are a magical realism that you bring from a very how can I say this without just saying very real, a woman's reality is what I'm saying. It's a woman's reality that conveys to a man what you summon empathy with your words. When I listen to you, I can feel what you feel, and that to me is one of the greatest gifts that you give as a poet. And I'd like to challenge you on that, because I'm just saying, that's my opinion, but I want to prove it. So would you read me something? Would you read me one of your poems?
Okay, I will read you one of my poems. Since we are celebrating the womb today and the women today, I'm going to read a womb poem. It's called Honorable Journey. I honor the vulva today. Sitting in the lobby reading a smutty romance novel my cousin gave me for Christmas. All the parts are squeaky clean, ready for inspection. Relaxed thighs draped with sterile cotton allow light and cold steel to pry open the gateway to insatiable secrets. A place where my magic, now deeply hidden, remembers moon times, the lunar sun dance, when sacrificial blood once stained the parched earth.
Thank you.
That's great.
That's great. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to be talking a lot. I am the sole male today, but I just wanted to say that, what I meant about the empathy that you summon is cross-gender, because to me, I was raised by a very strong woman, my mother, and I had a very strong younger sister who's no longer with us. And these women shaped my life. They formed me and in many ways created my sense of who I was more than my father, who had his own issues. I just wanted to say that I can hear women's voices very clearly because of my mother and my sister and now my daughter. When you speak, I hear your vulva speaking. And I say that
in the most respectful way, I'm sure.
I say that in a humorous way because we are bombarded with phallic sounds.
Yeah.
We live in a society. We have a lot of talking fallacies, and I'm one of them. But I really feel that our listeners can tune into what you're seeing and what you're expressing as a woman to all of us, not just the other women on our panel.
Okay. Well, thank you for that intro, Igor. And there's so many issues that us women need to talk about. Sexual violence, domestic violence, decisions about our own bodies being taken away from us, women losing their children to gun violence. The list goes on, missing women, marginalized women missing, Native women missing. I mean, I find myself folded over in grief with all this happening in this world. And some of it's just too big for me to write about.
What can we do?
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce Marjorie Pezzoli right now. She's going to be our first poet up, and I'm happy to introduce her. She's a San Diego poet, published San Diego poet, very involved in the local poetry community here. And you'll find her featuring at La Palabra, the Acid Vault, Poets at the Grove. She's a silk painter and a poet, a writer. And the first time I met Marjorie is when she came to my poetry bench in Balboa Park. And what she says about her poetry is the fluidity of time and space are recurring themes, which is so true. Her work has this very magical feel to it. And I find your poetry, Marjorie, to have a very cosmic, ethereal quality as you write about communicating with your daughter, who is no longer with us. And you communicate and you experience this connection with her on this very cosmic level. And listening to your poetry and your words, you can hear that. I hear that story in your poetry. So tell us about that connection if you are willing to share that. And she has many pieces of art she calls little pieces of me that she combines her graphics and her words, beautiful little pieces of art. And you can find those on her website as well. So I'm going to hand the mic over to you, Marjorie. Start us out with a poem. Tell us what's on your mind and share us a little bit about your journey as a mother who has actually gone through the worst, if you'd like for our listeners to hear that.
Sure. I mean, I was trying to figure out what poem to start with. And since we were talking about Alyssa, I decided, back in 2016, I kind of got the idea if I started working on a graphic novel, I could have continued adventures with her. And it still is a long process because it's not always easy. And I wanted to do a hybrid project and do poetry. And actually, the first one that I did is in Palabra open mic. So I'll start with that one. Two worlds within myself and beyond. Vignettes from the Mayon Chronicles. My thoughts split in two. I float in fluid time. How did I get in this space? Tentacles of the all-knowing entity holds me gently in place so I do not float off into oblivion. The Ancient One has seen it all, our stories and lives mingling together and reforming. The swirling currents in this vernal cosmic pool play with my hair. Or is it the ocean? Swimming in quantum time, I see bubbling up all around me, new planets waiting to be explored. I enter time in a different way. I am able to explore the stars and make a cup of tea at the same time. I can sharpen my blade, get ready for battle within, and tuck you into bed. To be here and there at the same time is the ultimate form of multitasking. The trick is to be engaged in each layer of time. Now to find out more of why I am here. The quest at hand is to retrieve the pearl of wisdom, the soul of the sword, to restore it to its full power. I tap into her strength and realize my own. The mermaid sword cut through my thoughts, releasing the pain and making me stronger for what needed to be done. Pearl's lustrous pastel rainbow colors gave out a beautiful glow. It shimmered across its surface. The mesmerizing power rippled through the skull that it was encased in. Later, I realized I was the pearl. The pearl is me.
Oh, Marjorie.
Wow.
You know, and this whole project just started off with, I wanted just a pinup of me to remind myself that I was a badass. And, you know, I was like, oh, it could be the younger version. And I'm holding a sword and I have a dragon shield, which is my dad. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, I'm not a violent person. I'm holding a sword. You know, eventually you're going to have to smite somebody. What's the redemption in there? And so here's just a quick little thought. The sword does not need to cut, but it can. It is about choices. Looking into its reflection to help decide what course you should take. If you need to go back to a new beginning, I can arrange for that. I am here to help you make the proper decision. I mean, I had to think about like why did she have to depart from Earth? And so I have this whole sci-fi thing that she's going back for the harmonic convergence, the female energy washing over the planets, you know. Yeah. And just I'm like, I totally geek out and I can go down the rabbit hole finding things I intuitively know about things in the universe. And then when I see it written down somewhere, it's like, cool. So a lot of heavy things. Oh, sorry.
I'm so moved, Marjorie. I'm so keenly interested in your work. Amazing. And particularly the grief work. And I come from a position of grief. I began poetry after my husband died. And I'm really keen. I need to speak to you about this because it's just
we'll definitely
so amazing that the affinity I have with your work and what I do with my late husband and the worlds I've made. Yeah, I've been crying here. Just amazing. Just amazing.
It is.
Beautiful work.
Marjorie, you're a new discovery to me. You and Jack were poets who I didn't tune into when you first started reading, but when I did started listening to you, I can only describe your work as, there's the kind of John Donne metaphysical poetry, very lofty, very academic and studied and very good. And I feel that you're a metaphysical poet. You're trying, through your own experience, you're trying to rationalize or to try to come to terms with reality within a wider and more spiritual context. Has anyone ever said that to you?
Not exactly, but I really appreciate that. That means a lot. I tend to be, more on the quiet backside and kind of see how things are going and then, jump into things.
Yeah, but that's what I get from hearing you. And I don't know you. I've only heard you read a couple of times, but you're a new discovery to me.
Well, thank you.
What really speaks to me is I'm very also preoccupied, me, with death and with the meaning of existence. And you seem to have tapped a vein. You've tapped a vein of insight that I think goes beyond your own personal impression of yourself. You have a very loud voice in terms of what you have to share.
Thank you.
A loud voice, but in such a soft and gentle delivery. I love listening to you. And can I share how when we take pictures at the readings at the Grove, there's always those rainbows in the pictures. We always see the orbs and the rainbows, and it's Alyssa's presence, right?
Yeah, Alyssa, She went swimming by herself is what happened. And our friends were out in the water when the lifeguards were bringing her in, and a big, huge, low rainbow formed. And that sign made the unbearable bearable. And she still sends me little unexpected rainbows in quirky places. And I document things all the time, the signs that she sends me. But yeah, and like I say, with friends, we laugh, we cry, and we laugh again.
Yeah, that just gives me chills.
So this one, with everything going on, when I walk my dog, things come to me, or in the shower. And this is the thought that came to me because I think about other mothers that have lost their children. A drawer becomes a time capsule, contains kindergarten drawings, report cards, and more. A place where time stands still. Nothing else to be added. Hands have been silenced. Crayons dropped to the floor. Uncaring bullets rage on. Chalk, once used for hopscotch, now outlines 19.
Oh, boy. You did it. See, you wrote about that.
And I have my dresser that's right by my bed, that middle drawer. It is that drawer that has the things that the teachers put together, and the books and the report cards and the crayons. And I was just thinking, I know what it's like not adding to that.
Oh, not adding to that. Yeah. That's powerful.
And on a separate note, yes, Igor?
May I ask you a personal question, Marjorie?
Yes.
Do you believe in life after death?
Yes. I believe our energies continue on, and I don't know what form, but I know that they do because my daughters communicated with me. I've even actually had one of our dogs pass on, give me this incredible portal into this space, which, people would be like, what? It's like, if you haven't experienced it, people would be like, nah. But
well, thank you, Marjorie.
Can I read something lighter?
Yeah, I think we have time for one more, and then we're going to move on to Stacy since she has to go.
Okay, this one, I followed the Poets Tree during COVID, and Gil Soto brought in headliners, and Stacy was one of the headliners. And this is her prompt was, why this place? And so here we go. Why this place? A supper club never in lockdown. Nightly stage shows, place a jumpin', headliner to be announced. Appetizer, alphabet soup. Arrange the letters however I please. Menu varies in this space between my ears. Tonight, dessert first, sweetness of life remembered. Next course, mood. To twirl my thoughts, spaghetti will do, al dente. Let the basil fall where it may. Atmosphere and decor change with the seasonings of my mood. Statues with arms broken off flank the entry. Burgundy velvet drapes drip down. Crescent moon smiled obscured. Starlight blocked. Cement shoes stored in the cloakroom. Size 9. I wear a 5. Waiter in tails and black bow ties make suggestions. Wines or whimpers to accompany the meal. Drink special. Martinis with an olive skull. Twist of irony, extra dry. No thank you. Purified water. Melting ice cube stories. Slice of lemon. No straw, please. Tomorrow night, we'll be in a mood for lighter fare, different ambiance and atmosphere. Sushi to savor the rawness. Enjoy the silent moonrise with each bite. Reservation for one, please. No fly in my miso soup.
Very nice.
Thank you, Marjorie.
Great.
Thank you.
I just wanted to remind our listeners that this is KNSJ, your social justice station, and you're listening to a special edition of Electric Picnic. It's a special edition of our poetry hour called The Electric Womyn. And our amazing panel of women poets includes Stacy Dyson, Marjorie Pezzoli, Patricia Ince, and of course, Deborah Ramos. And me, Igor Goldkind.
All right. Well, I'm going to bring Stacy up to the virtual stage here. She's a published poet with a couple of new books, right? A very big voice and a very big part of the San Diego poetry community. She specializes in the life and times of the Black woman. She's also an innovator lead poet for Tesoro, an international women's poetry network creating safe spaces for women and word warriors. And Stacy says, a woman denied her voice is like a candle without a flame. Indeed.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah. And the first time I saw you perform, Stacy, I want to say, I think was at La Palabra, Ted Washington's La Palabra, and in Barrio Logan. And you performed Dear White People, Don't Touch My Hair, Rename Me. And I never forgot that. And I've been paying attention to you ever since.
I'm flattered.
Yeah, amazing.
Well, can I just say, Stacy, not to deny you your strong voice, I have heard you perform several times, and I'm very moved by your language, and you are a great poet. And all I can say is, going back to the idea of being the only man here who is trying to feel some empathy and have empathy as well as I think, I think your words as well summon a lot of empathy for white people to understand what it means to be an African-American human being in America right now. And I wanted to compliment you on that. Your words work.
Well, I'm glad I'm not out there disgracing the family name and doing my job.
Stacy, I've been following you on social media, and I just want to say a little something, and then I'm going to pass the mic over to you. You were planning to move to Texas.
I was.
Yeah, and you've been sharing that journey on social media, and you recently posted a poem, a Bleach poem.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that poem.
Thank you.
And you were getting your house ready for the move. And one of the lines that really stood out for me was, the house clings to it. It mixes with last meals and the last of my comfort. You were cleaning your house so you could make the move to Texas. Correct? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I thought that was such a strong metaphor for like a purification ritual for leaving or moving. And then next thing I saw was you're now moving to Texas. So you want to share that?
I've got a poem about that will explain why.
Oh, good. Well, we want to hear it. Okay, so I'm passing it over to you. Read your poetry, speak your truth, and we want to hear what's on your mind, Stacy.
Okay. I'll actually do that one very last, but I wanted to start off with a piece called Reclaiming Our Time, because people need to understand that the supposed stereotype of the angry Black woman is not a stereotype, it's a reality. Yeah. And we're not trying to bother to hide it anymore.
That's right.
My not so dear sir, on behalf of sisters everywhere, I am reclaiming the word angry, because we are not supposed to be that thing. Never mind what happens to us. Never mind the insults thrown in our faces on every level, every day. In the name of sisters everywhere, I want to reclaim the word strong, not used as it is now, not used as a weaponizing force to undermine our vulnerabilities, simply an acknowledgement that we can kill you 14 different ways, with our tears, or bent backs, or open thighs. Yes, we will still be patient and long-suffering, just only in the way that you are patient and long-suffering when you are studying the enemy and ready to spill blood before nightfall, before dawn. because we're supposed to be quiet and patient and strong. We are not supposed to be angry when you rape us, betray us, murder our children, cheat us in finance and government. You tell us, expect us to lick your tears and be glad of the water. Every sister on this planet has done time at the altar of white male privilege. Every sister on this planet has done time trying to hold her head up while burying her heart in the dirt or having it torn to shreds and buried for her. We are reclaiming it all. We are using the words as they are meant to be used, which means we are through listening. We are over conversation. Past the indignity of letting other people define, legislate, social moray, condition us into any truth but the one real truth in the name of every sister in this place on this planet. In the name of every sister been forced to breathe deep and smile, to keep her children, her job, her man, her soul intact, I hereby reclaim our voices, reclaim our space, claim, encourage, ride in bold on our anger. I hereby reclaim our time.
Yes, sister. Absolutely.
Just to soften it a little bit, just because I can and just because I feel like it. Do a love poem.
We're listening.
My baby's walk is a sugar glide. Proud like a panther, smooth and easy ride. Sugar glide and honey stroll. Little girls giggle. Big girls pout, the grands bite their lip and shake their sore bones out when my baby walks. Oh, me, when my baby walks, oh, me. My baby's clothes fit like the sun fits the soft brown mountains when day is done. Pants and suit coats cut just so. And the brothers glare while the girls do stare. The grands mow long and fluff their hair when my baby walks. Oh, me. My baby walks. Oh, me. My baby talks like a gospel shout that sweet talked a jazz riff, then turned it out. Baby talks like a sinner's prayer that took an angel unaware. Little girls make eyes. Big girls hang heads, and the grands say, butter me some of that bread when my baby walks. Oh, me. My baby walks. Oh, me. My baby's smart and sweet and fine on my heart and in my mind. His smile, Lord, makes the sun to shine. My knees do quake. My body aches. He ain't just my sugar. He's the whole damn cake.
Yeah.
And smile, and grit, and grace, and silk, and style. And my baby walks straight to me. To me, my baby walks straight to me. Oh, me.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God.
Straight to me.
Straight to me.
God. I love that.
Me. Oh, me.
You speak for all of us, Stacy. Yeah, I love that.
That was beautiful.
Stacy, may I ask you a question?
Sure.
How old are you?
63.
You're 63. Would you say in your lifetime, have you ever seen it this bad before in terms of race relations in our country?
People say that like this is not an ongoing thing for people of color. It's not split up into, oh, it was good then, oh, it was bad then. This is just really a continuation, and it's slightly more, not even slightly, it's more pronounced, and it's talked about more, seen more, heard more, but this is nothing different.
Is this because of iPhones? Is because people are now able to record their experiences and share them?
I think it's because technology, yes, to some extent, plays a part in that. the news of wrongs done as such gets around the world a lot faster now. But those are stories and songs that would be in the wind regardless. So it's not so much about it's different or it's changed. It's about how quickly the information
and how much more aware we can become.
People have always had the ability to become more aware. It's just that when the entire world is recording you, looking at you, knows that you have access to the information, it becomes less of an excuse to not be aware.
Well, speaking to you as a white man, I have to say, my father was a freedom rider. He took bullets in Germany, he took bullets in the Ardennes, he took bullets in Mississippi as well. And I was raised, to have respect for all color and all nationalities, all who are American. But you know what? I've just been a liberal most of my life, and I've kind of played a lot of lip service. And it was only when I returned to this country and I began to see what was happening on these audit reports on YouTube, in which I could see how the police were treating my fellow Americans because of their skin color, that I suddenly did. Before Floyd, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe this was my country. I was just unaware.
I think probably that a lot of people have that history as such. And again, it's not that it hasn't always been there. It's more out in the open. And folks are, whether it's through a sense of obligation, through a sense of duty, through a sense of love, through a sense of shame, people have decided, I have to do something. Their motives vary.
Yes.
The outcomes vary. But what this place is and what it's doing to people does not. Not nearly enough to make a difference right now. That may change. I would like to say I'm hopeful. Quite frankly, I'm not.
Well, it's going to take all of us to make this change, because I don't think it's enough to be a white liberal anymore. I think you have to be actively anti-racist. It's not enough to say, I'm not a racist.
Yeah, I agree. Actively anti-racist, and to sit in silence is colluding with those that purport, to carry out their violence, their thinking on what is a kind of dinosaur mentality that white supremacy reigns, and all kinds of things that I'm listening to and hearing now in Texas, from constitutions and stuff that's happening to women, but black people from we're talking about the internet. I heard, because of speed, from back in the day when Rodney King, God bless him, was first murdered. That was a moment that came to the UK. We heard about what happened there, and there was uproar and uprisings and stuff. And then after that, we've got quicker technology. So as soon as George Floyd was murdered, we knew immediately. I've written poems straight away on seeing something on Twitter about two black students being tasered in Atlanta, I think it was. My poem was called Black in a Car. Literally stopped and tasered by police officers, 10, 15 police officers, and white students being able to drive off. And I could foretell then that the stuff that's been happening since, and I'm very much a supporter of, Black Lives Matter movement. Well, I could see that things were going to get worse before they got better, and education of all of our white friends, includes trying to be gentle with them about what white privilege is, and then trying to be a little bit more forceful, and then saying, I can't do this anymore. I can't keep teaching you stuff anymore.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Tish, but I agree with you 100%, because my path on this is not so much about virtue signaling or telling other white people what they should or shouldn't do. I've had to go through self-reflection, look at my own life, look at what I've done. Not what I've done wrong, what I haven't done right.
Yes,
The sin of omission is still a sin.
Yes. Yeah. Acts and omissions, all
It's not enough just
to... People do what it is that people need to do, to reflect, to try and reflect their best selves. And sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. It's really, I think it's really difficult to, particularly as women, to try and place ourselves in all these power structures and abuses of power. Because when you see something happening to Black men, from, Rodney King, George Floyd, we're not only outraged as Black women or women of color, and white people are outraged too at that too, also. But we as women then look at ourselves and think, well, if that's happening to Black men, what else will be happening to us?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What else is going to be happening to us? Mm-hmm. And of course, we've got Buffalo. For me, I'm a grandmother, and that for me was everything that I needed to know about where things are going for the future. Unless women can find their voices, find their power, find their courage, and find allies in men that want to uplift and support and help them with their voices, not use their voice only, help them speak first, and foremost. And
this is a discussion that could go on forever.
It could. Stacey, we want to hear your poem about the Texas.
I'm going to do this one last piece, and then unfortunately I have to leave you all.
Bless you.
This is the newest piece in my repertoire, and probably the linchpin of what will be in probably about 8 months my next book, which is untitled as of yet. Well, I'm not moving to Texas anymore. I know it's all I've talked about for months. Don't get me wrong. I was seriously thrilled when my friend gifted me an RV. I had to move, didn't want to fly because, COVID and people being generally nasty and me being non-trusting and suspicious of other folks' personal hygiene. Anyway, I was thrilled. I called my nephews who live in Odessa. Your auntie is coming down. Why don't you come get me? We can make up for some lost time, lost years. It was the paperwork holding us up. The tags and plates came, it all started to be real, and then it was just waiting for the title. I did the research. Everybody said, well, yeah, you can drive without it as long as it's recorded somewhere. And I have the receipt. I knew that electronically it was on file, it existed, but I needed it in my hand. I had to have that small square piece of paper in my hand, because I had 2 young Black men coming to drive me into Texas, and I did not feel safe or sure without that little small piece of paper in my hands. There was some holdup, some glitch. It kept getting delayed. And I was starting to get eaten up with this dread, this fear taking over all of my chest when I said, oh yes, my nephews are coming to drive me there. My 2 young Black nephews were going to drive me there. I sounded brave. But I would put down the phone or get off the chat and my hands would shake. I could feel the quiver in my voice. I kept having to wipe tears off my face and clothes because my 2 young Black nephews were coming to drive me into Texas in an RV with shiny new plates and tags recently gifted me. Legalities and civil rights never seem to make a difference down there, unless it's on the side of the police or old vindictive white men, or laws that should have been off the books decades ago, should never have existed decades ago. I had 2 young Black men driving a newly titled RV, and their aunt, who was old enough to remember girls being blown up in Sunday school and why strange fruit is still a necessary, bitter reminder, sung in mother's tears and defiant desperation, and folks who have died while engaged in the unholy commission of being while Black. The delay was longer than expected. That's when I started having the nightmare. My boys, yes, they're grown, but they will always be my boys. Breezing through a dust blue Texas night, stars showering down the way they do in the Panhandle sometimes. Laughing, listening to their granddad's favorite Motown and Silk Sonic, then the cop blows out of nowhere. steps off his bike, puts his hand on his holster because these are two young Black men in a newly gifted RV, and it's a long, lonely highway, and he is bored. Or maybe they passed a stop sign a little too soon, or maybe he hasn't made his quota for the night, or maybe just because they are two young Black men laughing and not caring where they are, except to come and get me, he wants the paperwork. License, registration. He sees the name on the papers isn't theirs, tells them to step out. They're smart. They've been trained the way we have to train our children these days with the police. They step out, give no attitude. They're quiet. But here's the thing. I know my boys. And their eyes are angry and their mouths and throats are tight and they are swallowing humiliation. And remembering the story I told them about their granddad being pulled over with me in the car, and that title is shaking in their hands along with the license and registration, and the cop takes their angry eyes and tight mouths as a threat. At least that is what he will say in court, that he feared for his life, and they will face down on that lonely highway, maybe still alive, maybe not. I should have been happy, but I got sick when it came. I felt as if I would be handing them a death warrant. And I could not let a piece of paper kill my boys, could not let some small square piece of paper be the thing that let some cop murder my two young Black men under a Texas sky. I've been a lot of things to my guys. I would not be the messenger of the thing that might get them killed. And I know you're saying that's ridiculous or that they could be stopped anywhere. But right now, Texas is a place where murdered children's cries are still echoing in school corridors, where the destiny of a woman's freedom to her body is not a recognized fact, where there are still sundown towns and a need for the new Green Book, and two young Black men singing Motown and Silk Sonic under a star-rushed sky is an invitation to death. I couldn't do it. I can't do it.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I am so grateful for the gift. The RV can be rented or lived in if times get tougher. I still haven't touched the title or the envelope it came in. It hurts to touch it. It feels a little too heavy in my hand. I will fly to see my boys. And the only thing in my hands will be their favorite cookies and heartfelt invitation to come and see me anytime. The nightmares have stopped. My boys are still in Odessa. And well, I'm not moving to Texas anymore.
Oh, Stacy.
Oh, wow.
Thanks.
Oh my God.
That was so powerful.
Thank you all so much. I am so sorry to have to leave you so abruptly, but I have another interview after this. So,
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you so much for your voice. We need to hear you. We all need to hear you.
you are quite welcome. I hope to see you all on screen or hopefully in person sometime soon.
Thank you, Stacy, for
Bless you.
joining us.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Bless you, Stacey.
Wow.
Powerful, important work. Oh my
Wow.
God.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh my God.
Oh,
And I really felt that as a grandmother, and I as a grandmother, because these are the responsibilities we have. We think of ourselves as the matriarch, head of the family.
Yes.
We're always got a pot and a cooking and cupcakes or dinner or something. And our kids and our grandkids are the loves of our lives, aren't they? And
they are.
And if we have any risk to them, and the risk that is there in the world is always going to be the risk, and to have to teach your children or grandchildren to, like one of my poems, stand still because of the color of their skin.
yeah.
Right, because of how we know, how the world is right now is awful. and also to teach our daughters and granddaughters to have to duck and dive because their bodies are not their own now.
Yeah.
If they get raped or have to go and seek an abortion,
Yes.
that they should be incarcerated, imprisoned for an act, a dreadful act, or it may have already happened to them with a rape, and now they're going to be penalised again and traumatised again. I can't believe these teachings have to be had.
I know it. In the 21st century, we're still talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
I just wanted to remind our listeners that this is KNSJ, your social justice station, and you're listening to a special edition of Electric Picnic. It's a special edition of our poetry hour called The Electric Womyn. And our amazing panel of women poets includes Stacy Dyson, Marjorie Pezzoli, Patricia Ince, and of course, Deborah Ramos. And me, Igor Goldkind.
Which leads us to you, Tish. From San Francisco. I'm going to pass the mic over to you. You are a published poet, writer, and performer of Trinidadian Irish heritage. Originally from London, she now lives in San Francisco, and that is the most inspiring love story I've ever heard. She's living in San Francisco with her husband, Dane, who is a San Francisco beat poet. And I got to watch that story unfold online because I met Tish and Red Medusa and Poet Con and all these amazing poets during the pandemic on Zoom events. I was visiting, I was going to all these poetry events and I saw you perform. I think one of the first times I saw you perform, Tish, you were doing the poet mouth.
Oh, yeah.
It was the most amazing thing. I've never seen anything like it. She'd paint her lips, glitter them up, and get her mouth real close to the camera with this gorgeous, amazing, glittering mouth. Yeah, just like that. Well, the listeners can't see it, but it's something to be seen. And then recite her poetry. And I was mesmerized by your amazing mouth. But besides that, she's been compared to Kay Tempest and poet Langston Hughes. And another unforgettable event that I was able to watch on Facebook was when you interviewed Red Medusa and Mitch, and you had a conversation about the marginalization of Black and brown women as poets and artists. And one of the things I heard you ask was, who do you uplift as a poet? And I love that question. And I don't want to waste any more time yapping. I just want to pass it over to you. Please speak your truth, your heart. Tell us who you are and who you uplift as a poet.
Thank you so much for that amazing introduction. And yeah, I'll come back to the love story. But yeah, I uplift anyone that has needs, I think. Yeah, anyone. My background's youth and community work. I've worked with girls and young women and young people, and then run women's centres in the UK. My background's also person-centred counselling. I've done drugs work, working in homelessness, as a counsellor, working with sex workers. I've worked with all kinds of different people and different women. And so I bring all of that and that ethos into my poetry or any engagement I have with people. So I uplift anyone that might need it, really. But yeah, and obviously young people that, my grandchildren I mentioned earlier, but any other young person that's in need, of an uplift, or if there's, problems, low self-esteem and, not sure about themselves as artists or poets, I'll be like, no, this needs a huge round of applause. I have a background in theatre, so it's all like, come on, this performance, come on, you're amazing. Oh my God, and those are things I really feel. I'm not just like putting on, some act or anything. I really feel like to see a young person with a microphone and be nervous and then overcome that, and whether that's spitting lyrics or spitting on the mic, or doing poetry or performance or singing. We've all seen maybe kids on a sofa with a microphone and then, I'm too shy, I don't want to turn around, and sing. Come on, turn around. It's a family gathering. It's only us. All right, we're not looking. All of that until they feel their confidence and they own that space and then move that into something else like stage or theatre. So I've worked in theatre, young people's theatre, and something called forum theatre. So I bring that, which is kind of like it's got its roots through Auguste Boal, Theatre of the Oppressed, bringing grassroots stories and bringing them to a stage and impacting people with those stories, stopping the performance and asking the audience participation, how do you see this going? Is there any benefit if we try this course of action or that course of action? And then somebody in the audience will say, yeah, I think this will come up on stage and act that out. So it's all kind of fun and interesting, but, very powerful for people. So I bring all of that into my work. I'll quickly mention about how I met Dane. I'm a widow. My husband died in 2017. I was a carer for him for a year. He had a brain tumour. We're married for 10 years. It was the biggest loss ever, I think, I've ever experienced. And I began writing about 6 weeks after he died. I moved to this lovely countryside, idyll, and said, this is where I could be a writer. When I first moved in with him in there, and didn't bother writing. I spent years just doing karaoke, arts and crafts, actually, Deborah, so I'm an arts and crafts fan, and just generally being a housewife, but after he died, I started writing, and then it didn't stop. It was flowing like anything. So there was a book that came out called Good Grief Please, a dialogue with death and life, a series of afterlife marital arguments with my late husband and his negotiations with me to re-engage with community. So let me find some that I've got for today. I've got some poetry. I'll share one on Ukraine, one on women and what's happening to women and the pain in racism. So this first one is called Hellraisers. Hellraisers took a constitution, let it run around in streets, let it rise up, take a stick and beat us. This is an aborted democratic state. Covered women's faces in Afghanistan. The new Taliban law shows us the nearing, the ever-increasing fate of this new woman hate. We are in a state. We are appealing and yet reveal the inner workings of misogyny, the inner streak and strike. Wombs are filled with lightning. Wombs are filled with wrong. Wombs are prison rooms. Wombs are filled with rape. We are gathered in hell's bells, left to ruminate on this bitter woman batter, Bible chatter. We are covered in your handmaid's tale. That valley of death we walk, no evil on our faces, many now unseen, robed in red and lie in beds. You say seducing, now forced producing. We are women reducing our children for battle. The newly born dead, we are seen, unclean, ordered instead. Mother Mary, we are your sister. Brother, we are your mate. Father, we are undone in this hellraiser wake.
Oh, Patricia.
I'll quickly move into the next one, which is about Ukraine war. So this also covers love for my husband and polishing his shoes. This is about Ukraine war, though. I polish shoes. I took his shoes to polish quickly. Every step he takes in them, imagined that someone else's last. On TV, I reach for pixels of compassion. In the world, an apron and black wax. in a country bombed where shoes lay about, telling their blood tales amongst bricks and glass from feet that cannot be washed in oils. Crucifying our histories, Jesus barefoot walks amongst the debris. Their sandaled feet are cut, brave, treading what might be roads to refuge. Trauma trains chock full of their killing dreams, reaching borders in their nightmare blasts, living thoughts of futures, hopes and grief. This war is this week, wailing walls. Long will this last? I polish, use all my energy, for these are shoes upon shoes I want to clean.
You have one more for us, Tish.
Yeah, one more. Okay, and this one is called Pain Child. This is about racism. Pain Child. When you just can't speak because it hurts that much. When the words won't come, pain locked up in trauma, pain trying to ask why, mama, but mama's shocked silent too. Pain gets his coat on, out from her grasp in boy-man seconds, runs into fields with others to scream, the chorus into cotton fields and mask, ships and whips, shackled, chained, supremacist refrain. Can't speak, can't sing, can't take this rumbling. Guttural gel ignites, opens up stomach, slices raw, chest and throat. Song of a blackbird cut, pain blood humming. Mama coming to collect sweet child sweat. Mama hands are strong. Pain is done running.
Oh, Tish.
Wowza.
Oh, sorry.
That was amazing, Tish. Oh my God.
Yeah.
An hour just wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough. I'm sorry. I didn't want to make anyone feel rushed.
Well, let's do this again.
Let's do it again.
Let's have an electric room
This
every
has
month.
been so amazing, like to hear poetry and thoughts and feelings amongst ourselves. Because as poets, we attend, we do our stuff. We say thank you very much, and we go, and the Zoom room closes.
Yeah. That's
You
it.
know, and
Yeah.
so this is
End meeting. Well, we've had Marjorie Pezzoli today, Stacy Dyson today, and Tish Ince, the amazing poet mouth today. It's just been so fun.
And we've had Deborah Ramos today.
Oh yeah, and me. I'm here.
You always forget yourself. It's the Buddhist in you.
And Igor. Oh yeah, and you.
Oh, yeah, remember me?
Well, thank you all.
Yeah, thank you. This has been amazing. Thank you for this opportunity. It's been absolutely wonderful. Really, really enjoyed this space.
Well, yeah, that's okay. That's all the time we got for today, folks. So, Deborah, thank you very much for filling in for Sue Taylor. You'll hear her next time.
You've been listening to The Electric Picnic, the San Diego radio show dedicated to poetry, spoken word, and prose.